Is something much larger going on in Japan and South Korea when it comes to XRP? We've got a new video clip today that really makes you wonder. We're going to break it all down. Plus, will Ripple and XRP ever become globally systemically important financial institutions? We're exploring that exact idea and what would actually need to happen for it to become a reality. We also have a ton of new updates dropping today. While it's Sunday here in America, Monday is already kicking off around the rest of the world with massive new partnership announcements. Let's dive into all this information so you can better understand where this market is heading. And hey, since we are grinding out here recording on a Sunday, your likes and comments go a long way. I really appreciate your support. Alright, let's start with this post from Bank XRP. Why does Asia go so hard on XRP? According to Fiona Murray, Ripple's APAC VP, low-interest rate economies like Japan and Korea push retail investors toward alternative assets. It's the exact same dynamic that built Japan into the world's biggest retail FX culture, the search for yield. When your savings account pays a flat 0%, you find another system. And XRP is becoming that system. Murray points out that it's not just developing countries facing these issues. In Japan and Korea, retail holders are looking at digital equities and alternative assets as stores of value. Japan is the largest retail FX market in the world because they've been stuck in a low to negative interest rate environment for decades. Giving them real-time digital access to alternative investments is a massive unlock. We are seeing individuals, organizations, and corporate treasuries looking to hold stablecoins as a store of value, regardless of their geographical starting point. I think that clip is just the beginning. But why would the XRP ledger be the absolute best choice to solve Japan's specific pain points in their FX market? Here is the plain language answer. Japan's FX market and broader banking system are facing structural issues that XRP and the XRPL are unusually well suited to tackle. First, slow, SWIFT-based cross-border FX. Traditionally, yen FX and remittances rely on SWIFT and correspondent banks. That means 1 to 3 day settlement times, high fees, and tying up capital in chunky, pre-funded nostro-vostro accounts. Next, huge domestic payment volume with fragile margins. Domestic payments in Japan are massive, tens of trillions of dollars a year, but the fee margins are razor-thin. Any reduction in liquidity and operational costs is a game-changer. Then, you have a stressed monetary system. The Bank of Japan's balance sheet is hovering around Japan's entire GDP. This limits traditional monetary tools and forces policymakers to look for highly efficient, tokenized financial rails. Finally, Japan has a regulated digital asset environment. They revised their Payment Services Act to explicitly support stablecoins and digital assets under clear rules. Banks finally have the legal framework to plug the XRPL directly into their operations. Let's better understand how XRP works as a bridge asset for FX. It's already designed to bridge fiat assets, like the US dollar or the euro, and stablecoins on the XRP ledger. That is exactly what FX is, moving value between different currencies at spread-sensitive prices. Market makers can hold XRP as a counterparty fee token, quoting tight spreads between the Japanese yen and other currencies without needing massive pools of pre-funded nostro balances. With Ripple's RLUSD hitting the market and Japanese yen stablecoins launching, the XRPL is perfectly positioned to move this value instantaneously. We're talking 1/500 transactions per second with fractions of a penny in fees, scalable with layer 2s if needed. For large volume, low-margin FX and domestic payments, raw throughput and low costs matter way more than having Turing-complete smart contracts. Think about the traditional banking system. When a bank sends a payment that takes days to settle, currency markets fluctuate. To avoid falling short, banks lock up excess capital. But with the XRPL, institutions know the exact cost of a payment before they hit send. They don't have to trap millions in nostro-vostro accounts. They can put that capital into yield-bearing stablecoins, and when it's time to move value, they just use RLUSD or XRP. On top of that, the XRPL has a built-in order book DEX. Banks can issue a Japanese yen stablecoin on the ledger, instantly trade it against other currencies using XRP as the routing asset, and completely avoid stacked smart contract risk. This isn't just theory. Ripple launched the Japan Financial Infrastructure Innovation Program alongside Mizuho, SMBC Nikko, and Securitize Japan to build directly on the XRPL. They are focusing on stablecoins, real-world asset tokenization, and credit infrastructure. A regulated yen stablecoin on the XRPL acts as a domestic representation of the yen. Combine that with US dollar or euro stablecoins, and XRP provides the bridge liquidity between them all. We also have concrete moves happening right now, like the Rakuten Wallet and Rakuten Pay integration. They are giving people the ability to turn $23 billion worth of loyalty points into XRP if they choose to, connecting directly to about 5 million merchants. And as we navigate through mid-2026, reports indicate Japan is actively expanding the XRPL's application to domestic bank transfers. Now, the regulatory process for banks to handle XRP, including FSA registration and Bank of Japan custody rules, takes about 6 to 12 months per institution. It is a very slow process. We are seeing major moves now, but this rollout will scale massively into 2027 and beyond. Quick pause, guys. CryptoNairs is back open and completely free to join. If you want to keep up to date with breaking news across the entire crypto space and don't want to wait for the videos, this is for you. If you're the type of investor who needs to know everything as it happens, CryptoNairs is a great community to grow and learn with. I'll leave a link down in the description. Now, let's get back to the content. Chart Nerd recently highlighted that XRP is going mainstream in Japan, bringing XRP exposure to Rakuten's 44 million customers. Following this, Chad Steingraber stated that he hopes people understand XRP is becoming globally financial infrastructure, a systemically important financial institution. I actually dug into this to see if that's factually accurate. The short answer: under today's regulatory framework, Ripple and XRP themselves are very unlikely to be officially designated as globally systemically important financial institutions. The term G-SIFI is a formal regulatory label used by the Financial Stability Board and the Basel Committee for massive entities like JP Morgan or Citi, institutions whose failure would threaten global financial stability. Crypto assets and payment networks aren't on this list today because regulators use this designation to impose extra capital and liquidity requirements on corporate entities. However, the XRPL-based infrastructure could absolutely become systemically important in practice. Just look at the digital euro being tested by the ECB, leveraging elements of XRPL technology. As global regulations expand and banks begin custodying digital assets, the ledger's infrastructure will become undeniably vital, even if XRP doesn't get that specific traditional banking label. The discussion around XRP is finally moving past short-term price action and toward its role in institutional infrastructure. Alastair E. Sakura, an early market maker for XRP and Ethereum and now a leader at Yellow, recently noted that the XRPL is evolving into a tokenization and settlement layer for institutional finance. He argued that the current divergence between XRP's token price and its network utility shouldn't be seen as a warning sign. Instead, we are in a transition period. Blockchain networks are finally being evaluated less on speculative hype and more on their ability to support actual, real-world financial infrastructure. Speaking of real-world infrastructure, Chart Nerd pointed out something massive on Ripple's homepage. Under cross-border solutions, Ripple explicitly lists payments powered by the XRPL as an alternative to the global SWIFT system. We know SWIFT is building out a blockchain system with Chainlink and Ethereum, but because it will be EVM compatible, you could technically plug the XRPL directly into that network down the line. And the banks are taking notice. Intesa Sanpaolo, the largest bank in Italy, is signaling a future-forward approach by integrating Ripple custody for their digital asset solutions, and they are actively buying XRP through ETFs, mainly the Grayscale XRP Trust. For context, Intesa Sanpaolo serves 14 million customers across retail, corporate, and wealth management, with over 2,600 branches. They are a European titan. Ripple custody is providing them and other Tier 1 banks like BBVA, DBS Bank, and Germany's DZ Bank with a secure, compliant infrastructure to manage these assets. We are seeing a flurry of 13F financial forms being processed right now, and the data is clear. Banks, institutions, and hedge funds are gaining direct exposure to XRP, and it makes perfect sense. If you are managing hundreds of millions of dollars, why wouldn't you allocate 1% to 5% of your portfolio into the foundational technology of the future, whether that's XRP, Solana, Ethereum, Chainlink, or XLM? I am sure we're going to get a lot more announcements this week as this market continues to heat up. Make sure you are subscribed and following the channel. I will always bring you the freshest data, usually within hours of it dropping. If you want up-to-date news on XRP, the Clarity Act, HBAR, XLM, and the broader crypto market, you are in the right place. As always, it's an honor to have you here. Crypto Sensei over and out.